Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center. It's our favorite time of the week. Why is that, you ask? Well, new knives hit our shelves every day of the week, and these are the coolest new ones. Let's check them out. All right, we're going to start off this week with some cool premium flippers, starting at $420. New Chaves Redencion 229 KickStop flippers. Here we go. Two versions of it. Like I said, $420. That version comes with micarta inlay on the front side of the titanium frame lock, and for $435, you can get a version that also has micarta inlays on the back side as well. There are two blade shapes, and as you can see, two different colors of the micarta that can be had. I like the drop point here. Surprise, surprise, right? So I'm going to show the drop point for the rest of this. Really cool thing. 3 5/8 of an inch long on the blade, M390 steel, and I mentioned KickStop, and that's the flipper here. Watch as it slowly starts to pop out there. That's a separate piece from the blade. It sticks out like a normal flipper in any other normal situation, or in the closed situation, I should say. And when you flip it, it then tucks out of the way. You can actually still see the flipper tab there at the spine side. Rests right there until the blade is ready to close and come back to it. As such, you got a very clean profile when open. You can choke right up thanks to this design as well. You can get right there behind the edge. No tab to kind of impede the variety of grips you might want to apply to this knife handle, and that's very cool. And I'm normally not like an all blacked out blade sort of guy, but the finish here is actually pretty nice. You can see a bit of the metal grain through the finish. It's not like a caked on black finish. It still feels like metal. It still feels like steel, and I like that. What else we got? Well, it is a frame lock, and in typical Chaves fashion, Chaves Ultramar fashion, which are made for them by Riot Knives, the actual cut for that lock bar is super fine, super precise. Not a big gap right there. Not that that really does anything from a functional standpoint. It's just satisfying, you know what I mean? So always a cool thing. I always also like how close to the end of the handle this pivot is. Lets you really maximize the amount of blade you're getting in that knife. Very, very cool. No matter which blade shape you choose, you do have a hollow grind here at the back and a flat grind towards the bellied section, because they are all compound grinds, or compound ground, and you have that swedge along the back as well. Very beefy, but still cutty. Doesn't feel super tanky, just the right amount of tanky, if you know what I mean. Someone is going to have some kind of tank analogy to what exact tank model describes what I'm just talking about. I don't know. Do you know?
Tanks are relative.
Tanks are relative.
Fish tanks, doubly so.
Now you're ruining my joke. That's fine. For something much more affordable, how about a new version of the Pilar III from CRKT? $60 for this knife, or just under, I should say. You've got a 3-inch blade, D2 tool steel here, and it's small, but it has some of those kind of same qualities of being slightly, like just approaching that line of being overbuilt without crossing over. Kind of like this Chaves here, although like that's solidly overbuilt, but not so far that it renders it kind of harder to use. This one is towing that line a little bit. Still a very easy knife to carry. There it is in the folded up position. Like I said, about a 3-inch blade, ball bearings in the pivot, it flicks open quite nicely. Not a crazy thin blade. It's a little thinner than some of the Pilar series out there, but a lot of strength for its size with what you've got here. High flat grind keeps it slicey enough. Steel frame lock on the back maintains the security. Injection, no, that's G10, sorry. Brown G10 on the front with an almost golf ball-like texture on it. Gives you a decent amount of grip without it being sticky or pokey, I should say. You can kind of hear exactly how that feels right there. Should have no problem holding on to that. A folded over pocket clip rounds things out. Single position, but it is pocketed into the stainless steel on the back with some flush mounted screws that are going to be quite easy when you need to get that back into the pocket. Next up is actually a knife that released a week ago, last Thursday, and my apologies to Benchmade. Our filming schedule meant I didn't actually get to have this in the video. This is the Claymore OTF. The Claymore has been around for a couple of years as a folding knife. They now have an out-the-front automatic version of it as well. $360 for this. You've got a 3.9-inch blade or thereabouts. CPM D2, which differs from standard D2 in that it is a powder metal creation or powder metal version of it. As such, the carbides are a lot smaller, and this is a lot tougher in its utility than standard D2. It can withstand a lot more abuse than the base level steel. With double edges there, you've got close to 8 inches of edge, so it's going to take quite a good long while for you to run out of sharp edge on this knife. The handles are Grivery, injection molded, maintain some of the cues from that original folding version, including the FTE, front towards enemy, just like the Claymore Mine, where it picks up a lot of its styling cues as well. Now, the advantage of that handle construction is the weight. Just 2.97 ounces for this whole knife. Very easy to incorporate into your daily loadout because it's not going to weigh you down. And being an OTF, it's fairly narrow in the pocket as well. We've got a deep carry pocket clip on the back. When you combine that feature along with the front mounted switch, which fires that blade quite nicely, and that double-edged blade, means this knife is completely symmetrical in its utility or in its experience for right-handers or left-handers. You don't even need to swap that clip around to throw it on the left side quite easily. You can of course use that as a backup implement in any kind of like tactical situation. I'm talking about like actual police officers or SWAT teams, that sort of thing, that might need an offhand blade to support their primary hand. That's a great option here right out of the box. Like I said, perfectly set up for left or right-handed use. All right, let's keep going with the pokey things. We've got a new ADV. This is the Warspike. Comes in about $180, made in South Africa, 4-inch S35 VN blade steel, and look at that very acute tip. Warspike is a very, very fitting feeling name for this knife. You got some other cool little details. I like the full tang construction that says authorized personnel only there on the back. That's kind of fun. The G10 handles, various different colors, are kept nice and slim. This is something that is built to be drawn from probably a concealed position more than anything else. Something that can be held tight to the body, not take up too much space, but be there when you need it. You've got the retention ring on the back there for inverted grips, especially the way you might also use a karambit, but this is of course not a karambit. And it comes with a very nice a Kydex sheath right here that I happened to stick the blade in upside down there for on a mistake there. Apologies all around for my fumbling both physically and mentally there. Clicks in quite nicely, as you can see though. Doesn't come with any attachment hardware, however. You'll need to bring something like a large tech lock will fit this. Ulti clips, great way to keep this inside the waistband if you want to carry it that way. And then deploy it really quickly, in a hurry. Great quality to this implement, ready to deploy. All right, for something kind of a similar concept actually, but a little more utilitarian, perhaps. Certainly more affordable too, if you're into this sort of thing, but you can't afford the premium quality of an ADV. How about a CIVIVI? See what I did there? This is the Varius, a design by Alan Olishewitz. Comes in just under $65 with a D2 tool steel blade in drop point or trainer variations. And as you can see, the back end of these handles are different. You've got a G10 scale or a G10 handle, really. It's not actually a scale. This is a single piece with a ring, or you've got G10 without the ring mounted on this one here. And both of these, the drop point and the trainer version, come with both versions of that handle in the package. So you're not limited. You don't have to buy that extra. If you want to swap this out for the ring handle, you can do that quite easily. Simply remove those screws, slide the handle off, pop the new one on. Same thing with the trainer. Now the trainer is also D2 tool steel, which doesn't really matter because doesn't have an edge, but it is also D2 in any case. The standard version, 3 3/4 inch blade, drop point, high flat grind, great utilitarian shape. Obviously it's a still pokey looking design if you need to use it for tactical stuff, but also I think this is going to be a great option for folks looking for a useful everyday carry fixed blade and you want a little bit of length for those larger cuts, but you don't want a lot of bulk. It's not gonna weigh you down there. I think it would also, for those same reasons, make a good hiking fixed blade. If you want something with full tang strength, but not a lot of bulk or weight, there you go. Speaking of, what is the weight on this? 2.5 ounces, just over. And then a little bit more. I don't have the weight with the sheath. I think it's the weight of just the knife in this case. But here is the sheath, Kydex. Nice click. Looking at this, I wonder, is this ambidextrous? It is. So that actually goes in either way, which is quite nice. Comes with this clip right here. You could throw that inside a belt or inside the waistband very easily. That'll hold it well. If you've got deep enough pockets, might even make a decent pocket fixed blade. You'll have a fair bit sticking up, but that's a fair bit you can actually grab onto when you need it to. So that's a pretty cool option, actually. If you want other types of attachment methods between the grommets and slots, pretty much any aftermarket thing can be made to work, I would think. That's the Varius. Pretty decent price on that too. That's a pretty cool knife. The trainer is a little less expensive, $62.90 versus $64.60 for the other version. And you can get it in an all blacked out, the actual bladed version, you can get an all blacked out version. And the trainer also has a non-blacked out version that you can get as well. So check them out. Next up, for $62, a new version of the Baby Banter, and a very kind of cotton candy look almost here. Pink scales, and then to accent that, we've got this kind of slate blue, not quite a navy blue coloration going on for the pocket clip pivot, thumb studs, back spacers, barrel spacers, whatever, the screws, even the liner itself is bearing that color, which is pretty fun. Definitely something cool there. Still has that great Baby Banter shape, easy to fit in almost any sized pocket, including that 5th pocket on a pair of jeans. And not to be too reductive, of course, pink is often seen as a very feminine color. This could be a good knife for the ladies as well. Still has good action too, of course. Pops open quite nicely on those thumb studs. You've got ball bearings in those pivots right there. Nitro V blade steel, good tough stuff. Small blade, toughness is debatable on how important that is, but I do like the ability of a steel like this to take a very fine, very thin edge without too much worry about it warping and bending and that sort of thing. And CIVIVIs almost always come with very, very thin edges. So it's a really nice steel to kind of support their design decisions and manufacturing decisions on this. So you get the stability of that edge and you get a nice thin edge for actual cutting as well. And you get enough of a handle grip on this if you want to. Use that finger choil. 3.5 fingers for my slightly larger than average hands on this knife means you could wrench on this knife enough to put some damage to that edge. That extra toughness, good thing indeed. All right, next up we've got a new Sencut, which is the one of the sister brands to CIVIVI. We have got Sencut, CIVIVI, and We Knife Company in order of least to most expensive and least to most premium there. The Sencut this week is the Errant. Here it is. It's about $38, just a few cents over that. And it's a ton of knife for the money. Almost like any Sencut you can get your hands on. The value here is hard to match. 3.5 inch blade, 9CR series stainless steel, hollow grind with that very thin, sharp edge I was just talking about on the CIVIVI stuff right there. 9CR may get you performance roughly on par with 440C is kind of what you can expect right there. G10 handles, full length liners, deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible, liner lock, and ball bearings in the pivot, flipper and thumb studs for opening. It's got a laundry list of features and construction methods that should cost more money, but they don't with a lot of this stuff right here. It's kind of interesting to see, I've said this before, the way Sencut and CIVIVI, well, CIVIVI really has grown past just the entry-level stuff that they offered in the beginning, because this is constructed like a lot of those early CIVIVI knives were, the only difference being the blade steel right here. So built just as well. Different steel option, still a good steel option. It's stupid good value, quite frankly. Next up, the Wii knife releases. We're gonna jump way up in price here real quick. The CIVIVI Qubit was a very popular knife, and it has recently made the jump, similar to the way the Elementum did, to the Wii knife brand for a more premium version, and here it is. Now, the interesting thing they did with this, before I tell you the price and all that, is the handle length, handle size is the same. The blade length is bigger than the CIVIVI version. That CIVIVI version came in just under that 3-inch mark. This blade right here has a 3.2-inch length tip to handle right there. So that's pretty interesting. No more, real estate out of your pocket, but more cutting potential, especially when you're talking with the upgraded blade steel you got here. Starting at $191 and some change, you can get 20 CV steel with titanium handles. A few different versions in between there and this version, which gets an upgrade to the Damasteel blade steel, $550 for this one. Now here's the thing with Damasteel, it is not going to hold an edge like the 20 CV will. It is, however, still a powder metallurgy product, comprised at its base with RWL 34, which is analogous to CPM 154. I talk about this kind of often enough that longtime regulars don't want to hear this again, but suffice it to say you've got a decently tough particle metallurgy steel there with some pretty good edge retention. But if outright edge retention / performance in that category is what you're after, stick with the 20 CV versions. And they're gonna cut a good long time because this geometry is fantastic. Super thin on the blade, full flat grind. They're famously thin edges as well. This thing, it's gonna cut like a laser, just super, super efficient. It's not gonna be like an overbuilt tank like the Chaves we looked at the beginning, but in terms of cutting efficiency, chef's kiss, doesn't get a whole lot better than that. This fancier version here also has a bit of an orange peel texture to the titanium, but it doesn't actually give you a lot of traction, I would say. It actually feels a bit on the slicker side of things, despite how it looks. It does look quite good. We've got a anodized titanium pivot ring there on the back. Single position pocket clip, I believe. What is that actually? No, it's not pocketed. So it is reversible actually. It does look like you can move that to the opposite side, just like the original. Nice neutral handle, so lefties or righties, big hands or small. The features are there that you need because this is a button lock, meaning left hand can use that just as easily as the right. I should mention though, another key difference from the CIVIVI version, they removed the kind of hook shape here that you would see in the closed position on the CIVIVI. That was the bottle opener. They took it out of this version. Keep that in mind. Next up, we've got a few fancier versions of the Navo from Wii Knife Company, an O-Stop Hell design. Just under $200 for this version right here, which is a lot of premium, fancy looking knife for that kind of money. 3¼ inch blade, 20 CV. Like the Qubit there, we've got nice thin blade stock with a full flat grind. I love the shape of this drop point right here. It's just kind of a very attractive shape, very useful for all your EDC types of stuff, as long as you don't need a heavy duty working knife or a big beefy tactical knife. This is gonna do quite nicely. The handles, we've got copper foil carbon fiber. There's also I think it's a silver foil carbon fiber also launching yesterday, technically. Those each come with titanium liners, ball bearings in the pivot, nice snappy action, everything you would expect from a Wii, that nice thin edge as well. Super nice design, super useful, classy looking, easy to carry. I mean, check out that folded up profile. Not too much to weigh down, for sure. So in keeping with this, this sort of transitioning us to the fancier looking, more custom feeling stuff, we've got one more Wii. This is the Harpen, a Michael Birch design. $255 for this. You got a 3-inch blade of 20 CV, hollow ground, which you don't see as often on particle steels. It's a little harder to do, or seems to be a little harder to do, or less common at least, than a flat grind. So that is a cool addition right there. Along with that real thin edge, it's gonna cut real nicely. And the handles are a single piece of titanium milled down and latticed out on the mill, basically. Pocketed from the inside to remove some weight as well. So there's a lot of machine time in this. So even though that's why it's slightly smaller and less fancy materials than this Navo, that's part of why it costs a little bit more. There's a nice stout feeling to that blade, even though it is a hollow grind with that very thin behind the edge geometry, and a pretty stout feeling in the hand when you really grip it too. We got a frame lock here. Let's check out the flipping action. Not a surprise, it's great. Next up, some Olamics. Olamic, I never know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly, actually. For those who don't know, the Olamic stuff, as it comes in, each one is unique. They never do the same knife twice. So these are just two of the currently or recent batch we just got in on the site. The first here is a Soloist. Comes with an antique entropic acid rain milled titanium handle. Sweet. It almost looks like patinaed copper, but being an anodized titanium, it's not gonna patina or change from what you see here. It's gonna maintain this particular rustic look. This comes with an M390 blade, just over 4 inches long. Scout blade is what they call it. Almost looks like a big bird's beak going on with the way this big swedge interacts with it, but it's kind of a big modified sheep's foot, I would say. Let's check out the flipping action. Whew. So cool. It's also got, as you can see, this thumb stud, which can move up or down the slot there. You could, of course, remove it from the slot as well, if you would rather do that. Reverse flicks quite nicely. Crown spine is quite nice. Everything about it is quite nice. There's no two ways about it. We've also got a bunch of Wayfarers in this batch. This is a super dense twist Damasteel cutlass blade with frame story, lunar landing, hand-carved titanium handles, and a file-worked backspacer. Come on. Very cool. It almost looks, obviously it's meant to kind of mimic like the craters on the moon, as you can see there, but it almost feels like pitted driftwood. And I mean that in a good way. It's pretty cool. Feels good in the hand. The Wayfarer tends to point down a little bit when you grip it, brings that tip to bear in an extended reach. Frame lock again. Nice action. Yeah, just really cool. We've got a few different blade shapes and of course different finishes on each one. S90V steel is also an available option in what we've got right now. Make sure to check out the link in the description to see the whole selection. Next up, we've got a couple of Mechforce knives. The first is an Alphahunter collaboration. This is the Apocalypse, coming in $395 for this version, $395 for both of the versions we've got on the site. 3.5-inch M390 blade, and it almost doesn't look like it's 3.5 inches. This handle is so accommodating in comparison to it. It almost makes it look a little bit smaller than it is. But hey, there you go. Tonto blade, you've got compound grinds, hollow at the back and flat on the leading edge. You've got a harpoon pointed tip on it as well, and this nice big fuller with kind of a blasted finish on the inside. In fact, we've got basically 3 different finishes going on this blade alone. The blasted finish of the fuller, the horizontal satin of the flats, and the stone-washed finish on all the ground portions of the blade. Pretty cool. Handles themselves are Topo G10, multicolored as you can see. Frame lock holds it open quite nicely. Let's check out the flipping action. It's flipping great, can't you tell? You can do a lot of that reverse flick stuff thanks to that fuller, and you've also got thumb studs, so plenty of ways to interface with this knife when you're feeling a little bit fidgety, and then it's ready to get work done when you're ready to do that as well. Last details to talk about, we've got a milled pocket clip, kind of low profile there, so maybe heavy work pants aren't the ideal thing for this, and you've got a hidden lanyard point at the back. Next up, Mechforce John Graham collaboration. This is the ringed Rhino flipper. There you go.
That's Rhino-like.
Wonder where it gets its name from. $525 for this version with the blue twill carbon fiber front. How cool does that look as a material? That is just sweet. Nice, big, massive single piece going on right there that provides all the structure you're gonna need on that blade, which is a 2.5-inch M390 compound ground Rhino blade. What else would we call that, actually?
Pachyderm.
A reverse hawkbill?
Sure.
Sure, let's go with that. Compound grinds, you've got hollow and flat, kind of like we talked about. Horizontal satin and stone-washed contrasting finishes going on here. Ring at the back, plenty of handle length for my slightly larger than average hands on here. Spine-mounted pocket clip going on. And let's check out the flip. Very nice. You kind of have to push it a little bit more intentionally than some. That's maybe due to the size and shape of the blade, but it works, as you can see, quite intuitively and quite nicely. Standard forward grip is going to be useful too, because you'll probably be using this more often like that if you're actually using this for a daily carry, so no worries there either. Speaking of daily use, daily carry, this is my favorite of the new Mechforce releases. This is a Ben Krein collab, sorry, the Forager pocket fixed blade. Yes, my favorite genre. Really cool little knife. 2.35-inch blade, Magna Cut steel, $245 for this one with Ultim handles. Check that out. I actually didn't even realize it was Ultim right away, because with the red liners underneath, that red interacts with the yellow color of the handle material and gives you something very cool. Kind of translucent orange, almost looks like a Jolly Rancher. Wouldn't you say? I would, so I will. Really cool little thing though. About a 2.5 finger grip on it, very neutral, very accommodating, no finger guard or anything in the way. Lets you really get there right behind the blade for precise use. Good stone washed finish, good shape to the blade as well. And here is the sheath, sorry, way. Kydex comes with that little pocket clip, as you can see right there. I'd say it's set up right now for left-hand carry, but you could flip those around, pop it on this side, and you could carry it in the right-hand pocket if you wish as well. Or of course, you could just carry this like a neck knife, or throw any whatever other aftermarket sheath stuff or attachment stuff you might like. Actually, I'm not sure if this fits a tech lock or not. I know this does, let me see. Yep, a large tech lock would work on this, no problem. CIVIVI T-clip, of course, no problem as well. It's just a cool little blade. And I'm sitting here appreciating this, this Ultim as well. I've been a little like hit or miss on the material so far, whether I like it or not. This one right here with the red liners underneath, I'm digging that a lot. That looks really cool. Lanyard attachment point there at the back if you would like to use that. I think the best thing I like about this is it feels utterly practical. No nonsense, just a nice sharp little blade. And in a way, these next two folders have the same kind of things going on for them. And that's because they've taken cues from just classic working pocket knives that are no nonsense to begin with. The first is the Boker TRPPR. That's why I call it the Terper. Just, it makes me laugh. That's the only reason why I do that. But this is the Zollingen-made Boker Trapper. $304 for this new version right here. Still comes with the Magna Cut blade steel, 3.2 inches long. Yeah, previous knife is the first with Magna Cut on the table so far. The spiel, of course, there is it holds an edge really well. It's, of course, a stainless steel, and it also is a pretty tough steel as well. Hits those things in a kind of perfect balance, or at least the most balanced ratio out there with steels available today. The handles on this one are curly birch, so each one is going to be a little bit different. That is inlaid onto the titanium with integral titanium bolsters there, and I love the little tree logo on the pivot. Keeps things nice and clean. You do have Boker Zollingen marked on the spine. I like that as well. And the pocket clip is milled with a ball bearing at the retention point. You've got that bolster style frame lock, and the flipping action is oh so nice. Classy, everyday, working gentleman's knife would be exactly how I describe this knife. It's very cool. And last but not least, kind of a similar thing, or similar style almost, similar potential use case in any scenario, the Esnyx Silverline Workhorse liner lock. These are made by Riot for Esnyx. Comes with a M390 blade, a little bit over that 3-inch mark, $295 for this black micarta handled version right here. Got a nice classy titanium shield on the front, again, pulling in the classic slip joint elements into this modern liner locking folder. You've also got another classic slip joint element there in the nail nick for the opening, even though You're more likely going to be actually flipping this knife than two-hand opening it. And you've got a top style front flipper. Works really easily with the thumb in typical front flipping style. Works great with the index finger as well. Now what that gives you is no flipper tab to get in the way up the front. Again, we've talked about that on a few knives. If you like getting right there behind the edge, you'll be able to do that real easily with this design. Lockup's good. Milled pocket clip feels good. Everything about it feels good. What else do you want to know? Let me know in the comments, because that's all I have to say about it right now. It's super nice. That is all I've got to say about any of these knives right now. So leave your questions in the comments if you have any. Let me know what you thought of the knives this week. And if you want to get your hands on any of them, check out the links in the description. That'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're over there, don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program, because if you're going to spend your money on one of these knives today, you might as well earn some free money to spend on a future one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing out. See you next time.